less stress, more time, more money. Welcome to the Cash Flow Contractor, short with Khalil bin Ali Haj.
What's up, Cash Flow Contractors? Excited to have this short episode with you today and help you have less stress, more time, and more money. So, where to start with your marketing, right? I get this question all the time from contractors. No idea what to do. They're trying to throw money at ads. They say they need somebody in the office posting on social media, all these different things, but they really don't know where to start. And really the number one rule is that you always start with the vision. You don't know where you're going, then you're probably going to end up somewhere else. So, any job that you're working on, you're not going to go into it and start building without a template or without drawings or a plan of some sort. And it's the same thing with marketing. You've got to know what you're going after. Really good analogy. I'm going to link to this. It's a post by a guy named Skylar Moss on LinkedIn. Really loved it. But it's about fishermen. So what do all successful fishermen have in common? There are the fishermen out there that are, they're lucky and every once in a while they catch a fish, but they have no clue why or how they caught that fish in the first place. But the professional fishermen, the ones that are really good and they consistently catch the right fish over and over, they all focus on one important thing and then they work back from there. And that one important thing is the fish. And yeah, I know that's not like this crazy idea and profound, but the reality is a lot of people are more focused on their companies than they are on their customers. And as Skylar Moss says in his post, they have a boat first mentality when it comes to fishing. They're always thinking about their boat and the equipment they have and all these different things, when in reality they have to focus on the fish. And if you think about the fish first and you're focused on the fish, you're going to have a lot more success. So when asked where do I start with my marketing, my answer is that you have to start with your customers, and you have to start with the customers that you want. So the reason why this matters is because those lucky fishermen, there's contractors that are fine with the word of mouth referrals and these jobs that come along every once in a while, and they're okay with just staying like that. But I'm sure a lot of the cash flow contractors out there they're not comfortable with that. That's not what they're striving for. They want predictable results. They want something they can depend upon and something that they can put effort and energy into to help them control the situation and predict their cash flow. So this allows you to do that, because once you do know who your fishes are, who your buyer persona is, your target customer, you're able to really start marketing effectively and specifically. And that's the thing that's really going to stand out. So a buyer persona. What is a buyer persona? Buyer persona is a semi-fictional representation of your ideal customer, right? So, if you're a service contractor that's working on the residential side, it's going to be someone like homeowner Hank, right? Or it's going to be residential Rita, or whatever fake name you want to come up with. But there are certain attributes that you want to know about that buyer persona. You want to know where they spend their time. You want to know what their income is. You want to know if they've got a family and kids or not. Maybe their age, different demographics, but also what are some other different products that they may buy in their house? Would they be considered upper class or lower class? How often are they using your service? What are some questions that they would have? What are the mistakes they would make related to what you're providing as a contractor? What are some opportunities ahead of them? What are some of the obstacles or frustrations that they have in their life, whether it's about your product or not? Just things that they're always thinking about, right? That is what a buyer persona is, and that's what you want to do to start your marketing. So, once you do take the time to build out that buyer persona, your ideal customer, then you can start working on those drawings, those plans, those templates, if you will, for how you're going to effectively reach them and turn them into a customer. And the great thing about the buyer persona is, it's going to influence your messaging and your website and the way that you run ads and the places where you spend time and money, and your web presence as a whole, really. But it's really going to influence your business as a whole. It's going to change the way you sell. It's going to change the way that you structure things in your company, the way that you follow up with customers, your customer service. All these different things are going to be influenced by your buyer persona. So how do you do it? Really quickly, I'm going to outline the steps and then I'll break down how you do it, right? So the first step is that you have to gather a list of your past customers. If you're new to business and you've never, worked with customers in the past, or you really don't have a big portfolio of customers that you've worked with, you can just skip this step and begin going to what I would call step 3. So if you do have customers, you're going to gather that list of past customers and you want to try to come up with some areas for each one, right? So as you come up with that list for each one, write out like maybe how they found you if you know, right? You're going to write out what you think their income level was or the neighborhood they were in. You're going to just come up with different areas that you can look for differences in between all of your customers, right? Then you're going to research those customers. You're going to look for patterns. Once you've done that, you're going to begin to answer some questions to better understand your buyer persona. Then from there, you're going to summarize that buyer persona. And lastly, you're going to think like your buyer persona. So let's go back to gathering that list and we'll get a little bit deeper, right? So if you don't have a list of existing customers, that's going to be in your CRM. And that's one of the shorts that I'm actually going to be doing next. So gather a list of your existing customers, whether it's in a spreadsheet, whether it's on paper and you're just writing them out. I would say you need, at least 20 if you can, customers. If you're maybe a builder and you're not working with that many people in any given year, just try to get as many as possible from the past and just make a list. And you're going to want to answer a few questions, and here they are. Out of this list of people, who did you enjoy working with the most? Right? The next question, who did you profit or gain from the most? Next, which customers caused the least amount of problems for you, right? Least amount of complaints, whatever it is. And the next question, which customers enjoyed you the most? Which ones, were willing to leave that review or give you a testimonial or continue to refer business to you, right? Next, which customers bought the products and services that you actually want to do more of, right? Because you can have a really good customer who is great to work with and loved working with you, but maybe they're just getting this, this product or service that you really don't want to sell more of because of the margin or because of the amount of time it takes or just the amount overall of the project. Lastly, you want to know which customers do you feel like you can actually get more of, right? Because there are the unicorn customers out there that they probably are more of them, but they're not going to go with you at this stage in your company or with what the product that you're offering. Maybe you're offering a really cheap service and that's really higher end and they're not going to go for it, or vice versa, right? Which ones do you really feel like you can get more of? So looking through that list, begin highlighting the people that really fit these descriptions of who you are wanting to work with and who's going to be best for you to want to work with. And then as you do that, see if you can find those patterns that exist among them. Maybe they are all in the same neighborhood. Maybe they are all in the same, level of income. They're all upper middle class. Maybe it's the time of year that the project was going. There's a lot of different things, the type of projects they wanted. Maybe it's a certain style of project that you were working on. Begin to find those patterns, and then you'll probably start to see that, man, there really is kind of this ideal customer and we can kind of define who they are. Once you've done that, now you need to fill out a questionnaire about your buyer persona. It's going to ask you questions like how they found you, what they're like, how many kids they have, how much money they're making, where they spend their money, if they go on vacation, what are some of the goals they have? Are they wanting to, remodel their house? Are they wanting to move into a new home? just on and on questions about the goals, obstacles, frustrations, questions, mistakes, all these different things. And it's going to help you better define that buyer persona. So once you have that, right, you've filled out all these questions. Now you actually need to make this buyer persona more summarized, right? Whenever you go and you're looking back at your buyer persona, you don't want to have to go and look through a questionnaire of all these different questions that are being answered. You'd love to read a couple paragraphs to really get an idea of who they are, right? So if you can summarize these buyer personas into just a couple paragraphs of who they are, what they're like, what's important to know about them, that's going to be super helpful. Then what I would do is I would run that by other people in your company, other friends and family, see what they think, see if there's anything you missed. Maybe even let them look at the questionnaire and see if that fits of who you're trying to reach, or if they have something else that you're not aware of, or maybe forgot to put down. Then after that, you're going to memorize who this person is, who this fictional but ideal customer is. And memorize who they are, visualize them. And then start to put yourself in their shoes, just like those, WWJD bracelets that people would wear. What would Jesus do? Ask the same thing about your persona. What would they do? How would they make this decision? How would they want this experience to feel? How would they answer this question? Just think about them nonstop. Where are they spending their time? What's on their mind right now? The reason why this is so important is because whenever a lot of contractors run an ad or do messaging or build their website, they're really just focused on the boat and themselves and not the fish. And so they say things like, most trusted contractor, or, established since 1923, or whatever it is, best builder in this community, which maybe that matters to your persona, but most likely not. Right? They're having their own conversations in their head, not the conversations that you're having. And so if you want to have success with them, you've got to join their conversation. You've got to talk about things that they're already talking about. And it's going to be a much easier connection and sell if you can start to do that, if you can start thinking like your buyer persona. So this was a short lesson. I even think I've gone a little bit long, 12 minutes. I'm just trying to keep it under 10. This is just a starting point. In the show notes, I'll send that. I'll put a link to Skylar Moss's post about being a fish-focused company instead of a boat-focused company. I'm also going to put a link to a buyer persona questionnaire, all those questions. And then in the next short, we're actually going to talk about understanding that buyer persona a little bit more and actually interviewing some customers to better understand them. Some little extras, if you're working, more B2B rather than B2C as a contractor, you may want to create what's called a buyer profile, which is essentially the same thing, but it's an ideal company, not an ideal customer. So it's outlining the kind of companies that you want to work with. Maybe you're doing commercial, maybe you're a subcontractor, you're working with a lot of different builders or GCs. That's something that you would probably want to create about the type of companies that you want to work with. A second extra, you can also create something called a churn persona. I think that's coined by Casey Graham. But a churn persona is essentially the customers that you don't enjoy working with, or customers or leads that fall out of the equation quickly. Who are they? And you want to define them so you can recognize them sooner and recognize that, these are people that we actually don't want to work with. So anyways, those are some extras. Hope that you enjoyed this. I hope this gives you a really good idea of where to start with your marketing, and it really is a foundation for how to move forward in a really effective way. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to The Cash Flow Contractor. Check out our website in the show notes or visit thecashflowcontractor.com.